Gryffindor. If you've ever been told you're too reckless or that your bravery sometimes borders on idiocy, congratulations. You might just be Gryffindor material. This is the house for people who don't just run into danger, but sprint at it headfirst with plot armor. The Sorting Hat sees right past your charming grin and checks whether you've got a streak of courage so stubborn it makes everyone else nervous. Now, Gryffindor isn't about being fearless. No, it's about being terrified and doing it anyway. Think Harry Potter charging into the Forbidden Forest at midnight with a lantern and a questionable plan. Or Neville Longbottom standing up to his own friends in Sorcerer's Stone. That's the Gryffindor blueprint. Reckless heart, shaky knees, and still refusing to sit down when it matters. But courage is just the entry ticket. Gryffindors also bring a heap of chivalry to the table, which sounds fancy until you realize it mostly means they like being the hero. And yes, the hat did say their daring, nerve, and chivalry set Gryffindors apart. So when you're sorted here, expect a lifetime of people assuming you'll volunteer first. Of course, bravery and heroism have a downside. Gryffindors can be impulsive, arrogant, and occasionally as subtle as a bludger to the head. Ron Weasley leaping into a game of wizard chess where losing meant actual death? Classic Gryffindor. Hermione, for all her brains, deciding to knock out a professor with Devil's Snare in year 1? Again, peak Gryffindor logic. When the moment comes, logic and self-preservation usually pack up and leave, replaced by sheer stubborn nerve. And then there's the reputation. Gryffindor is the house of Albus Dumbledore, Minerva McGonagall, and, of course, the entire Golden Trio. It's the flashy house, the one everyone cheers for at Quidditch, the one Slytherins roll their eyes at because, frankly, it gets all the headlines. You don't read the Daily Prophet about a Ravenclaw sneaking a book back to the library, but a Gryffindor wrestling a troll in the girls' bathroom? Front page, every time. So if you're loud, daring, and the kind of person who thinks rules are more like polite suggestions, the Sorting Hat has one word for you: Gryffindor. Slytherin. Ah, Slytherin. The house that gets booed before the Sorting Hat even finishes its sentence. But let's set the record straight. Not every Slytherin grows up to be a Dark Lord. Some just end up in politics, which is basically the same thing, but with better PR. The hat describes Slytherins as cunning, ambitious, and determined. Translation? These are the kids who treated group project as code for, you all do the work, and I'll take the credit. Ambition is their fuel. They want power, influence, and success. And they're willing to cut corners sharper than a basilisk fang to get there. Draco Malfoy strutted into Hogwarts like he already owned a wing of the castle. Classic Slytherin confidence. But here's the thing most people miss. Slytherins are survivors. They're strategic. While Gryffindors rush headlong into the fight, Slytherins are in the background calculating, okay, how do I win this without bleeding? They're resourceful, thinking 3 steps ahead, and they'll happily switch tactics if it means staying on top. Snape, for example, managed to fool both Voldemort and Dumbledore at the same time. Pretty impressive. Of course, their reputation isn't spotless. Most Death Eaters were Slytherins, and Salazar Slytherin himself had the subtle opinion that Muggleborns shouldn't be allowed in the school. So, yes, there's a dark streak. But ambition doesn't automatically equal evil. It just means you'll probably find a Slytherin running the company you work for. Or, let's be honest, the company you work under. And Slytherins are fiercely loyal to their own. It's easy to mistake them for cold-blooded schemers, but within their inner circle, they protect each other like family. Think of them as a very exclusive club. Once you're in, you're golden. If you're out, good luck. The snake on the crest isn't just for show. Now, does this all make Slytherins sneaky, manipulative, and sometimes insufferably smug? Absolutely. But it also makes them winners. And the Sorting Hat knows it. That little voice whispering in your ear, you could be great, you know? That's the hat spotting your Slytherin streak. So if you've ever fantasized about world domination, or at least making middle management before you're 30, don't be surprised when the hat yells, Slytherin. Just be prepared for everyone else at the table to scoot their chairs a little further away. Ravenclaw. Welcome to Ravenclaw. The house where brains are currency and wit is the secret handshake. If Gryffindors get praised for bravery and Slytherins for ambition, Ravenclaws get their glory by being the ones who actually read the instructions before attempting the spell. Ravenclaws are defined by intelligence, creativity, and a certain love of knowledge for knowledge's sake. These are the students who treat the library like their personal living room and think light bedtime reading means a 600-page tome on the history of goblin rebellions. Luna Lovegood is the perfect example. Brilliant, original, and just eccentric enough to remind you that Ravenclaw intelligence doesn't always come in a neat, predictable package. But being clever doesn't automatically mean they're practical. In fact, Ravenclaws are notorious for being so wrapped up in theory that they sometimes forget real life has deadlines. While a Hufflepuff is quietly finishing the essay and a Gryffindor is pulling an all-nighter, the Ravenclaw is rewriting the introduction for the 6th time because the phrasing wasn't quite elegant enough. Their common room even proves the point. Instead of a password like the other houses, Ravenclaws get a riddle at the door. If you solve it, you're in. If not, enjoy the awkwardness of waiting outside until someone smarter shows up. Imagine being locked out of your own dormitory because you couldn't answer. Which came first, the phoenix or the flame? That's peak Ravenclaw energy, making intelligence both the key and the gatekeeper. Now, it's easy to romanticize Ravenclaws as serene scholars floating through life in an aura of wisdom. But let's not ignore their quirks. They can be arrogant, dismissive, and a little too pleased with themselves when they get the right answer. And yes, they will correct your pronunciation of Wingardium Leviosa, even after Hermione already told you first. Cho Chang was brilliant at magic, but also tangled up in emotional whirlwinds because, well, book smarts don't necessarily translate into social grace. Still, Ravenclaws bring something no other house does: vision. They're not just about facts, they're about ideas. The dreamers, inventors, and philosophers of Hogwarts all find their home here. Without them, we'd be stuck with bravery, ambition, and loyalty. Great qualities, sure, but none of those invent new spells or wonder why the moonlight looks different when seen through enchanted glass. So, if your idea of fun is solving a puzzle nobody else can, or if you've ever corrected a teacher just because the textbook phrased it wrong, the Sorting Hat probably has one word for you: Ravenclaw. Hufflepuff, last but not least, Hufflepuff. But don't be fooled. While everyone else is busy calling them the leftovers, the Sorting Hat knows better. Hufflepuff is for the loyal, the patient, and the hardworking. Basically, the ones who actually keep Hogwarts functioning while Gryffindors are busy being dramatic and Slytherins are plotting their LinkedIn careers. Hufflepuffs value fairness, kindness, and honesty. These are the people who will share their notes with you even if you ignored them all semester, then still wish you good luck before the exam. Cedric Diggory is the perfect example. Smart, talented, popular, and actually nice. Which, let's be honest, is rarer at Hogwarts than a defense against the dark arts teacher making it through the year alive. Their common room tells you everything you need to know. Located right by the kitchens, Hufflepuff House is warm, cozy, and filled with plants. It's less dark dungeon or intellectual tower, and more, please take off your shoes and help yourself to snacks. The Sorting Hat knew what it was doing. This is the house where everyone feels safe. Unless, of course, you're allergic to pollen. But don't confuse kindness for weakness. Hufflepuffs can be absolute tanks when it comes to loyalty. They'll stand by their friends through anything, even if it means charging into battle against Death Eaters. In fact, when Voldemort returned, more Hufflepuffs stayed to fight at the Battle of Hogwarts than Slytherins. The house may have a reputation for being soft, but when push comes to shove, Hufflepuffs shove back. Now, they don't chase glory like Gryffindors, and they don't crave power like Slytherins. They just quietly put in the work, often overlooked until it really matters. And sure, that makes them the underdogs, but being underestimated is its own kind of weapon. Nobody sees you coming when they assume you're just here for herbology and biscuits. Yes, they get the short end of the stick in terms of reputation. Even J.K. Rowling admitted Hufflepuff doesn't get enough love. But the truth is, they're the most well-rounded house. Where else do you find loyalty, fairness, and snacks all bundled together? So, if you're dependable, kind, and the sort of person who actually washes the dishes without being asked, brace yourself. The hat's gonna shout, Hufflepuff! And there you have it. Every house at Hogwarts explained, quirks and all. But let's be real. Knowing which table you'd sit at is just the warm-up. Because beyond these cozy common rooms lurk the wizards who didn't exactly use their talents for essay writing or Quidditch practice. I'm talking about the most evil, the most dangerous, the most powerful dark wizards in the entire wizarding world. Click here, and we'll dive straight into their twisted spells, their rise to power, and the chaos they left behind.